We're going to show you how to diagnose and repair an Exmark Pioneer 52-inch S-Series mower with the Kohler 7000 engine on it today. It's bogging down under a load and intermittently loses power. We would have had a real nice intro for you here today if we didn't have a nice snafu with the camera being on nighttime time-lapse mode. So either way, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. As we take a look at this and listen to how it sounds, we can definitely hear that one of the cylinders is dropping out, at least is what it sounds like. One of the easiest things to check for with having low power is going to be your air cleaner. If your air cleaner is plugged, you could not be getting enough air in order to run this machine. Now this air filter does look like it has some debris and stuff on it, but in the scheme of things, there's plenty of filter there to get enough air. Not going to be the problem here. The first thing I like to check when we're having an issue like this is you want to check the fuel supply coming in. Now, if you follow the fuel line from the fuel pump here, you'll find your fuel filter, and you can follow it down and around. And this one comes from the bottom of the tank, so it's usually not as much of an issue, but this fuel filter could be plugged, causing a low power issue where you're just not getting enough fuel. You can check the pickup tube. Many times these will come from like the top, almost like this, and go down into the tank, and debris and stuff will get trapped at that corner and allow not enough flow. Take off your fuel pump line right here where it goes to the carburetor and see if it shoots out. You should get 2 or 3 feet of shooting out of here. It shouldn't just be dribbling. If it is, you know that we have an issue with a fuel restriction with the line collapsing on itself. Many times as lines get older, they'll collapse on themselves. Or we have an issue with the fuel pump itself. That is the first thing we like to look at. Now here, I don't believe that's the issue. I think we've got good fuel. We worked on this about 6 months ago and everything was perfect. We weren't having any issues like this. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. If you're getting good flow and this still seems to be the same issue, if you add a little bit of choke up top while it's running and it smooths out, then you know you have an issue with the carburetor or an air fuel mixture. That'll solve that real quick. This is not sounding like any of that at this point. It's sounding like it's running on one cylinder. So we'll go towards testing for that first. So you hear it sound kind of normal and then it starts to sound bad again. Common sign of running on one cylinder. We can check this by unplugging one of the spark plugs and grounding it out to the side and seeing if it'll start on the opposite side. If it starts, we know that that cylinder is working properly. Then we do it to the opposite side and see what happens. I don't suspect that's the issue here whatsoever. I'm gonna unplug the far side spark plug. We're gonna test this cylinder and make sure that this cylinder is working properly. I am putting a spark plug in it and holding it up against the metal. That way we do know that it's grounded out, but that's gonna tell us if this cylinder's good. If it starts and runs, we know that everything over here is working properly. The valve train's working properly. We're getting spark and fuel. And you can actually hold this to the side and look between the probe and the outside edge if you're trying to see if you have good spark on both sides. You do want to insulate yourself with a rag or something if you're holding it against there. I'm just going to kind of tuck it up underneath and I'll actually be able to see it as I'm testing that other side too. That is not what I was expecting. It's actually not starting on the opposite side. I was thinking we're having a completely different issue here. Okay, let's dive in. Got the other side plugged in now. Let's see if I can't hold this against there. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to really see it. Unless I do, I've got a rag ready for once I start it on this side. So I do think this is still the same issue that I'm thinking it is. We're having an issue with the ignition coil. If you're watching in between the probe and the outside edge, you can see that that spark is almost constant and it's super, super light. There's some kind of issue with this ignition coil. If we replace one, we're going to replace both. Let's dive into that. So to get to these ignition coils, we'll take the 10 millimeters that hold the fuel pump on. And then you've got 8 millimeter bolts all around. You don't have to take them all the way out. You can actually just loosen them. They've got notches in the plastic here. So basically 2 on either side there. And then there should be one right back at the corner here. On each. And then this whole cover basically comes straight up and off. So what we find as we see up here is that the mice have been into this. I'm not seeing anywhere where they've actually chewed on the coil wire. That's just the kill wire. As long as it's not grounding out to something, it should not cause this issue. Let's test this ignition coil again with the kill wire off and see what we get out of it. Without the kill wire being on there, we are still not getting a good spark. That's telling us that that coil is failed. We're going to replace the coils. Got a couple 3258406 S's. Same design and everything, same number that's on the coil. Check yours before you just order them. Check your spec number, make sure it's the same. Some of these could be a little bit different. Had a guy call me yesterday and say that he had watched one of our videos. I think it's a 7000 series, maybe a KT720, that we did a video on the same issue, and we do include part numbers for the coils. Well, he had a different spec number, so he went ahead and ordered the coils based on the spec number of my machine instead of his. They would not fit. They are different numbers. Got a little bit of rust on the terminals. I'm going to clean that up. Usually I don't worry about it, but if there's a bunch of surface rust, it can cause an issue. Normally I don't also worry about surface rust on the magnets, but today we're going to clean those up. Start our bolts. Spray a little bit of anti-seize on there. Give me a straw. Use one of our business cards in between the magnet and the ignition coil. You can look up the spec on it. I think it's usually 10 thousandths or something to that effect. Standard business card will work well. And make sure you don't over tighten these. And you basically want the magnet to be as close as it can to the coil without it actually hitting, is the goal here. Put our kill wire back on, route it back down and plug it into the spark plug, and get the other side done. Take our plug out. Rotate this one around where the magnet is there. Just right centered up, again, is how you want it. Where both parts of the magneto are up against the magnet. Hold it there, tighten it down. And we're all set. Run this side independent of the other one and see what happens. Unplugging this other side, hold this plug against the block. It runs just fine with that other plug unplugged now. Both cylinders are properly firing. I'm going to show this just from one other angle. Some people try to say that we have trick photography and all this other stuff, but it is a true repair, as all of ours are. The left side is now firing like it should without this cylinder plugged in. We're going to put the top back on here after we repair this wiring, and the only reason that I'm going to repair this wiring, I called and talked to the customer, they want it back right now, as everybody does, it seems, but there's not even one broken wire in all of this. They did not chew through any of the actual wires themselves, just the insulation off of the wire. So we use some liquid tape on this, get it all wrapped up with some shrink wrap, and it'll be all set and ready to go. Sure all of our lines go back where they should. These lines kind of wrap back around, hold them in place, up away from everything. So yet another weird ignition issue on one of these Kohler KT720 series engines. I've seen this probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 times over the last year with these ignition coils acting the way that they do. And this one with the Diagnostics was very strange because it was showing spark, but still wouldn't allow this cylinder to fire at most times. You could hear it picking back up in our initial testing at certain points. Very strange, something to look out for as you're working on these Kohlers, and something, if everything else is testing good, put your money right on those coils, because that's what's going to be the problem. Luckily, they're not extremely expensive, most of these, so you're not going to be out of pocket a lot of money to get this taken care of. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the content.